to this highlights edition of NASCAR Video Magazine. In the next few minutes, we'll take you behind the scenes and to the front row of the NASCAR action that's not available anywhere else. Let's get started with our host, Benny Parsons.
At the end of each issue of NASCAR Video Magazine, I've asked for suggestions of what you'd like to see. And the number one request is, what's it really like to work on a Winston Cup team? What does a crew have to go through to prepare to race? Well, in this issue, we're going to show you. The Morgan-McClure Kodak team, based in beautiful Abingdon, Virginia, allowed us to spend a week with them as they prepare to race in Charlotte. It's your chance to come along for an insider's look at what it's really like to work for the Daytona 500 championship team.
I couldn't describe to you how good you feel like when you win a Daytona 500 or you win a race or you run good. You know, it's, you don't have to worry about getting motivated or getting up to come to work because you get out of bed and you want to go to work. And it's like people that just work an ordinary job. I don't see how they, I don't see what draws them out of bed anymore. And I know if I didn't do this, I don't even know how I could get up.
Everybody makes sacrifices. If you want to win, if you want to be successful, you got to do what it takes. And sometimes it's, the task is large and it takes a lot, and you have to give up a lot of other things that you'd rather be doing, maybe not rather be doing, but that you could be doing, that are just not as important as winning. And winning's everything to me and to this race team, and we're committed to it.
While crew member Jeffrey Ellis finally goes home, the rest of the crew is yet to return to Abingdon from 2 grueling days of testing. It's even later when the truck finally gets back to the shop. And in the surrounding hills, the crew finds their way to their homes for what will be a quick hello to their families and a short night's sleep. The crew arrives early. An extraordinary amount of work lies ahead. The team gets right to it, moving like a fine-tuned machine. Nothing needs to be said. Each man knows his job. After every race or test session, like the one the team has just completed at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, that's the site of this weekend's race, the entire car is disassembled from end to end. Virtually no part, no screw, no bolt, no cable is left untouched. Within minutes after the team has arrived, the engine is pulled and put on the dynamometer under the scrutiny of wily veteran Chief Engine Builder Shelton Pittman, better known as Run. The dyno is perhaps the most important single tool Winston Cup teams use to test engines in their never-ending search for horsepower. All told, the team will be bringing 6 engines to Charlotte. And while this one is on the dyno, the men in the engine room continue work on finishing the others in time to get the rig on the road later this afternoon to head to Charlotte. Close to 3 hours after getting to work, the team finally takes a short break.
If you don't have a slick body and a big motor and a decent driver, you can go to front. But if you got a good driver and he ain't got nothing to drive, he ain't going to front. So it's 100% team effort.
We got, what, 25, 28 people here? They're on a 20-man team, 40 hours a week, that's 800 man-hours.
Yeah.
And everything clicks together and comes together all at one time for the team to leave and go to the race.
We're here not because of all the money we're making, but because we like what we do.
Yeah, you gotta
like to see that team effort come through.
The crew gets back to work, and crew chief Tony Glover checks on cars being readied for races down the road. All told, the Morgan-McClure team has in excess of a dozen cars. The crew works steadily through the morning and into the afternoon. The truck needs to be loaded and gone before the end of the day. It's a battle against Murphy's Law. Every part must be perfect, and it must be perfectly measured, calibrated, and installed. Make no mistake about it. While this is precision work, it's also tough, physical work. And the hours away from friends and families aren't only long, they're hard. All the pieces have come together, and finally, the engine is dropped back in the car.
Oh, man. Looked in it, too.
Smooth, Paul.
A crew member calls out, "Fire in the hole!" and the engine roars to life. While the work at the shop is critical, the true test comes at the racetrack. Later in this edition of NASCAR Video Magazine, we'll join the Morgan-McClure Kodak Chevrolet team in the garage area of the Charlotte Motor Speedway and let you see what it's like to work in the Winston Cup garage area.
NASCAR Winston Cup racing has grown to be the most popular form of auto racing in the world. Dr. Jerry Punch takes us back to the beginning with how the sport got started.
On December 14, 1947, at the Streamline Hotel here in Daytona Beach, Florida, 35 men sat at a table and laid the groundwork for a national sanctioning body that would govern the sport of stock car racing. Chairing that meeting on that Sunday afternoon was Big Bill France, who had directed stock car races in the South during that year. In the next 3 days, a set of bylaws, rules, and guidelines were drawn up. Red Bode, a mechanic from Atlanta and one of those attending the meeting, has generally been given credit for naming the organization. And on February 21st, 1948, the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing was incorporated. France was elected president, and Cannonball Baker of Indianapolis was elected its first national commissioner. France declared the purpose of this association is to unite all stock car racing under one set of rules, to set up a benevolent fund and a national point standing system whereby only one stock car driver will be crowned national champion. The first strictly stock car race in NASCAR history was held on June 19, 1949 at Charlotte Speedway, a 3/4-mile dirt oval in Charlotte, North Carolina. The winner was Jim Roper in a 1949 Lincoln. Race number 2 was held here on the sand of Daytona Beach. A crowd estimated at 5,000 was on hand to watch 28 cars compete. There were 21 cars still running after 160 miles, with Red Byron of Atlanta taking the win in an Oldsmobile number 22. Now, the course was actually a little more than 4 miles long. The cars ran 2 miles up the sand of the beach here, made a hard left-hand turn, and ran 2 miles south on the asphalt of A1A. When did they start these races? Well, it wasn't according to television or even the sanctioning body. They started them according to tides. The tides would have to be out to run the race. In fact, the last race right here on the beach started late in the afternoon, around 3 or 3:30, because of a late afternoon high tide. On February 23, 1958, the final race was held here on this famed beach and road course. Paul Goldsmith won it in a smoky unit-prepared Pontiac. Some called it the end of an era for stock cars, and in a way it was. For only a few miles from here, a giant speedway was under construction that would change the face of stock car racing forever. Daytona International Speedway, the world center of racing, has hosted more competitive miles than any other facility of its era. The name Daytona is synonymous with motorized competition around the world. This facility has hosted some of the greatest drivers from the world of go-karts, sports cars, motorcycles, and stock cars. The Speedway opened in 1959, and many skeptics wondered about safety and just how competitive the stock cars would be on a 2.5-mile tri-oval. Well, the first Daytona 500 was run on February 22nd, 1959. Safety? There wasn't a single caution flag during that entire 500-mile event. Competition? Well, it took 61 hours and shots from 7 different cameras to finally determine that Lee Petty was the winner. The Daytona 500 is the race that every driver wants to win. Why? It's the richest and most prestigious stock car race in the world.
Oh, I won the Daytona 500! I won the Daytona 500!
Daryl, how long?
Wait. This is the Daytona 500, isn't it? Don't tell me it isn't. Thank God!
The dream that I had when I was down in this fourth corner taking those movies on that station wagon was to someday come here to get in this type of car, come here and win. And so by coming here and winning in '86, completed that cycle that I had as a little boy. And so this is the most important race right here in Daytona. And I guess it always has been and always will be.
Coming up later, NASCAR Video will take you to visit with the man who has been here to Victory Lane at Daytona more than any other driver in stock car racing, the king Richard Petty.
In one of our regular features, three-time Winston Cup champion Darrell Waltrip shows you how to drive like a pro.
Most of us in today's society are worried about weight control and what we can do to keep the right amount of weight in the right places. Well, the same is true in successful race car driving. The tip I have for you today is how to avoid a condition called TTO, trailing throttle oversteer. Sounds pretty technical, but the theory is quite simple. Now, most of our racing is on ovals with wide sweeping turns, but it's a different ball game at Watkins Glen or Sears Point. On the oval, the car's weight stays even, especially on super speedways. On the road course, the car is constantly under different weight changes to the front and back because of hard braking and acceleration. Now then, what kind of traction should we expect from the front tires when most of the car's weight suddenly is transferred forward in an instance of sudden deacceleration? Well, the traction of the front tires will be better than the rear tires because there's more weight over them, right? It's a pretty simple concept. The front tires hold better under braking, the rear tires hold better under acceleration. Basically, it's just a matter of where the weight is, front or rear. Have you ever been traveling down an interstate? Of course you're doing the speed limit, and you spot your off-ramp too late and you ask yourself, what would Ironhead or Wild Bill do? Well, we know the answer to that. You're going for it. You check your mirror, it's clear, bonsai! Now you're in the middle of the ramp without the high banks of Daytona to help you, and you suddenly think to yourself, what kind of deductible do I have? Your self-preservation says, hold on here, jump off the gas, and get to the brakes fast. That's a normal reaction, but perhaps not the best one. Let me explain why making a sudden move off the throttle to the brake could put a couple of minor dings in your car, or even worse. What happens as you're moving onto the ramp is the car's weight is rolling to the side, not your normal driving condition, but not out of control yet because you still have traction from all four tires. But if you jump off the gas pedal too quickly, you unbalance the car. The weight shifts to the front, making those tires grab better. As the rear of the car becomes unweighted, the next thing you know, the taillights are now where the headlights used to be. So remember, the higher the speed, the more gentle and precise you have to be. Remember where your weight is.
I know exactly where my weight is right there.
NASCAR Video Magazine's Tech Report gives you an inside look at the mechanical developments in Winston Cup racing. Here's Gary Nelson with a report on a new way to shift gears.
Probably the biggest thing that has helped the stock car racers adapt to road racing is the advent of the Jericho transmission. Back in about '86, Bobby Allison was one of the first ones to try it, and then very soon after that, everybody's running the Jericho transmission on the road courses. The reason for it is that there's so many gear selections. You can change the ratios to get off of one turn better or down the straightaway better, and also it's so much easier for the driver because the gears are straight cut. They don't have any bevel or any synchronizers, so that means the driver really doesn't have to use the clutch. He can drive with this transmission and he can shift gears anytime he wants without using the clutch, and really the old style transmission, the Borg Warner T10 like we have here, is really an old Corvette transmission from the early 60s that was just beefed up, and that's what we used for years on the road courses, but it had these bevel cut gears with synchronizing rings. So the driver had to use the clutch, and then it was still luck of the draw sometimes if it went into gear or not. There was a lot of missed shifts, a lot of concentration was used by the drivers to get it into the gear that they wanted. With the Jericho, they could just put it in any gear they want. At a track like Sears Point, the drivers can shift as often as 15 times a lap. And when you think about that, in the old days, they really had to concentrate on the shifting. Nowadays, shifting is just a breeze. There's no thought to it at all. They just push the shift lever into the gear that they want. So they can really spend their time thinking about how to get around the track quicker and use the lines that they want.
We conducted a poll with top racing journalists to pick the top stock car drivers of all time. Here's Benny Parsons' look at the winner.
When you stop and look at the Winston Cup record book, his numbers are staggering. Most career wins, 200. Most wins in a season, 27 in 1967. Most consecutive wins, 10 in 1967. 18 consecutive seasons with at least one win. Over 1,100 career starts. 7 Winston Cup championships. 7 Daytona 500 wins. No one even comes close to most of these numbers, and probably never will. Personally, I thought I knew something about driving until I raced against Richard Petty. Just being on the track with him showed me how much I had to learn before I could even call myself a race car driver. He just flat out blew my mind. But the story of his greatness goes beyond what he does on the racetrack. It's the man himself. He transcends the sport. Win or lose, he's always the same. There's that big smile, the love and respect he has for the fans, as well as the love they have for him. Man, you can feel it. He helped carry the sport from the small-town dirt tracks to the major league sport it has become today. In 5 different decades, he's been the driver all others have been measured against. There's no doubt in my mind, Richard Petty is the greatest stock car driver of all time.
NASCAR is a lot more than just Winston Cup racing. There are a number of series that might lead you to the top. Here's a look at the Busch Grand National Series.
The Busch Grand National Series has a heritage that is nearly as old as NASCAR itself. Originally known as the Late Model Sportsman Division, its early champions were drivers like Mike Claypack, Ralph Earnhardt, and Ned Jarrett. Renee Sharplin was a 4-time champion in the early 60s. Other legendary drivers with multiple championships include Red Farmer and Jack Ingram. In 1982, NASCAR redefined the series from drivers competing on regional tracks for national points to a national touring series of approximately 30 races per season. Today, the Busch Grand National Series has attained the status of being the 3rd most prestigious racing series in the country, behind only the Winston Cup Series and Indy cars. While many have used the series as the last stepping stone to a Winston Cup career, others like Tommy Houston, Jimmy Hensley, and Ingram have found a career racing in the Busch Grand National Series is all any driver could wish for. Competition is the key word, with each season producing records for new winners as well as different winners. On many tracks, the Busch Grand National stars have a chance to compete on an equal basis with their Winston Cup counterparts. In 1991, the series has had a great mixture of experienced veterans like Bound and Hensley finding victory lane along with exciting new winners like Kenny Wallace and Bobby Labonte. The Busch Grand National Series is a great place to spend a racing career, or use it as the final step to the Winston Cup Series.
Earlier, Benny Parsons joined the Morgan-McClure team at their racing shops. Now let's join them as they prepare to race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
After unloading, the first order of business is the first phase of inspection by NASCAR officials.
Well, the first thing we do, we go to the gas pump. We fill the car up with, racing gas. We go through the scales and weigh it. All Winston Cup cars have to weigh 3,500 pounds total weight. They have to weigh 1,600 pounds on the right side. Then they got the templates that you go through. You know, our cars are Chevrolet Lumina, but not all Chevrolet Luminas are the same. They want our cars to look like stock appearing cars, so they have just an aluminum template to simulate the shape of all the cars, and they have to meet that template within 3/8 of an inch. So any place you don't meet it, you have to trim, shave, or what have you to make it meet NASCAR's requirements. Yeah, right now we're ready. You know, we've got the sticker on our windshield, which means that it meets all NASCAR requirements. And right now we're just waiting for our first practice session.
He may not be with the crew all week, but make no mistake about it, Ernie Irvin's very much a part of this team. Together, they make a unique fit. The crew and the owners, calm, meticulous men. Ernie, brash and aggressive. Opposites that complement each other and make for a winning combination. Ernie's debriefed after every practice. I had a chance to talk to Tony and Ernie.
Test session's over. What did you learn?
We learned that the track is extremely slick, and we got a lot of work to do yet.
What does he mean the track's slick?
Well, you know, Benny, you've been around this place a lot, and usually the place you have all the trouble here at Charlotte is in turn 3 and 4. Well, we're not having a whole lot of trouble through 3 and 4 right now, but they about wreck every lap down there in 1 and 2.
Having planned their strategy to attack the handling problem, they're back at it first thing in the morning, working on the rear end, cranking in wedge. You never stop chasing the track, particularly at Charlotte. That is, searching for the right combination in the setup. Wedge, tires, weight. We're trying to match the conditions on the track. That changes from day to day, sometimes even hour to hour, depending on the weather and the racing that's taking place on the track. In contrast to the previous day's heat, race day dawns cold, damp, and dreary, and it's threatening to rain. The team gets right to it. They have their work cut out for them, having qualified 16th in the 20-car field. Davey Allison and the Haviland team are on the pole. The rain does indeed stop, and finally it's time to go racing. Along with the tension, there's a sense of relief when the car is finally on the racetrack. All the preparation behind you, now it's time to figure out, is your car fast enough to beat all the other cars on this given day? Ernie charged, but he couldn't find a way around Elliott. It's one thing to run with Austinville from Dawsonville, another thing, getting around it. Nobody looked to stop Davey Allison this day.
Whenever you come home with 5th best car, you don't feel very good about it because, you know, you come to be number 1, and today we wasn't, but hopefully next Sunday we will be.
The crowd is long gone by the time the team pulls out. Ahead lies a 4-hour drive back to Abingdon. Then tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., they'll be back to the shop, pulling the car out and slapping the engine back on the dyno. By Wednesday, they'll be loaded up and headed out for the next race down the road. Yeah, it's tough, but not a one of them would have it any other way. They're racers.